Man saved this wolf and her cubs, but 4 years later this happens. Do you believe in miracles? If not, then this story is for you. Of course, most people could hardly believe what I will tell you today. And this, frankly speaking, is not surprising, since this case is not amenable to science, and no one, not even the most experienced specialists, can explain it. Most likely, if it were not for the witnesses who discovered our main character and who did not see what was happening with their own eyes, we would hardly have ever learned about this amazing story. Deep in the Alaskan wilderness, a prospector comes to the rescue of an injured mother wolf and her pups, and a lasting connection is formed. One spring morning many years ago, I had been prospecting for gold along Coho Creek on southeastern Alaska's Kupreanof Island, and as I emerged from a forest of spruce and hemlock, I froze in my tracks. No more than 20 paces away in the bog was a huge Alaskan timber wolf, caught in one of Trapper George's traps. Old George had died the previous week of a heart attack, so the wolf was lucky I had happened along. Confused and frightened at my approach, the wolf backed away, straining at the trap chain. Then I noticed something else. It was a female, and her teats were full of milk. Somewhere there was a den of hungry pups waiting for their mother. From her appearance, I guessed that she had been trapped only a few days. That meant her pups were probably still alive, surely no more than a few miles away. But I suspected that if I tried to release the wolf, she would turn aggressive and try to tear me to pieces. So I decided to search for her pups instead and began to look for incoming tracks that might lead me to her den. Fortunately, there were still a few remaining patches of snow. After several moments, I spotted paw marks on a trail skirting the bog. The tracks led a half-mile through the forest, then up a rock-strewn slope. I finally spotted the den at the base of an enormous spruce. There wasn't a sound inside. Wolf pups are shy and cautious, and I didn't have much hope of luring them outside. But I had to try. So I began imitating the high-pitched squeak of a mother wolf calling her young. No response. A few moments later, after I tried another call, 4 tiny pups appeared. They couldn't have been more than a few weeks old. I extended my hands, and they tentatively suckled at my fingers. Perhaps hunger had helped overcome their natural fear. Then, one by one, I placed them in a burlap bag and headed back down the slope. When the mother wolf spotted me, she stood erect. Possibly picking up the scent of her young, she let out a high-pitched, plaintive whine. I released the pups, and they raced to her. Within seconds, they were slurping at her belly. What next? I wondered. The mother wolf was clearly suffering. Yet each time I moved in her direction, a menacing growl rumbled in her throat. With her young to protect, she was becoming belligerent. She needs nourishment, I thought. I have to find her something to eat. I hiked toward Coho Creek and spotted the leg of a dead deer sticking out of a snowbank. I cut off a hindquarter, then returned the remains to nature's icebox. Toting the venison haunch back to the wolf, I whispered in a soothing tone, "Okay, mother, your dinner is served. But only if you stop growling at me. Come on, now. Easy." I tossed chunks of venison in her direction. She sniffed them, then gobbled them up. Cutting hemlock boughs, I fashioned a rough shelter for myself and was soon asleep nearby. At dawn, I was awakened by 4 fluffy bundles of fur sniffing at my face and hands. I glanced toward the agitated mother wolf. If I could only win her confidence, I thought. It was her only hope. One snap of her huge jaws and she could break my arm, or my neck. Over the next few days, I divided my time between prospecting and trying to win the wolf's trust. I talked gently with her, threw her more venison, and played with the pups. Little by little, I kept edging closer, though I was careful to remain beyond the length of her chain. The big animal never took her dark eyes off me. "Come on, mother," I pleaded. "You want to go back to your friends on the mountain. Relax." At dusk on the 5th day, I delivered her daily fare of venison. "Here's dinner," I said softly as I approached. "Come on, girl. Nothing to be afraid of." Suddenly, the pups came bounding to me. At least I had their trust. But I was beginning to lose hope of ever winning over the mother. Then I thought I saw a slight wagging of her tail. I moved within the length of her chain. She remained motionless. My heart in my mouth, I sat down 8 feet from her. One snap of her huge jaws and she could break my arm, or my neck. I wrapped my blanket around myself and slowly settled onto the cold ground. It was a long time before I fell asleep. I awoke at dawn, stirred by the sound of the pups nursing. Gently, I leaned over and petted them. The mother wolf stiffened. "Good morning, friends," I said tentatively. Then I slowly placed my hand on the wolf's injured leg. She flinched but made no threatening move. This can't be happening, I thought. Yet it was. I could see that the trap's steel jaws had imprisoned only 2 toes. They were swollen and lacerated, but she wouldn't lose the paw, if I could free her. "Okay," I said. "Just a little more and we'll get him out of there." I applied pressure, the trap opened and the wolf broke free. Whimpering, she turned away, bouncing on her injured paw. My experience in the wild suggests that the wolf now gathered her cubs and disappeared into the forest. But cautiously, she approached me. The pups playfully nipped their mother as she stopped by my elbow. Slowly, she sniffed my hands and arms. Then the wolf started licking my fingers. I was surprised. It went against everything I'd ever heard about timber wolves. Yet strangely, it all felt so natural. After a while, with her cubs running around her, the mother wolf was ready to leave and started limping towards the forest. Then she turned to me. "Do you want me to go with you, girl?" I asked. Curious, I packed my gear and left. Following Coho Creek for a few miles, we climbed Kuprianof Mountain until we reach an alpine meadow. There, lurking on the perimeter of the forest, was a pack of wolves. I counted 9 adults and, judging by their playful antics, 4 nearly full-grown pups. After a few minutes of greeting, the herd began to howl. It was a strange sound, ranging from low wails to high-pitched howls. At dusk, I set up camp. By the light of my fire and a bright moon, I could see stealthy wolf shapes slipping in and out of the shadows, eyes gleaming. I wasn't scared. They were just curious. Me too. I woke up at first light. It was time to leave the wolf to his pack. She watched as I gathered my gear and started walking across the meadow. Reaching the other side, I looked back. Their mother and puppies were sitting where I had left them, watching me. I don't know why, but I nodded. At the same time, the mother wolf let out a long, mournful howl into the cold air. For years later, after serving in World War II, I returned to Coho Creek. It was the fall of 1945. After the horrors of war, it was good to be back among the tall spruce trees and breathe the familiar, bracing air of the Alaskan bush. Then I saw, hanging from the red cedar tree where I had placed it 4 years ago, the now rusted steel trap that had ensnared the mother wolf. The sight of him gave me a strange feeling, and something made me climb Kuprianof Mountain to the meadow where I last saw him. There, standing on a high ledge, I gave a long, low wolf call, something I had done many times before. An echo came across the distance. Again I called. And again the echo reverberated, this time followed by a wolf call from a ridge about half a mile away. Then, in the distance, I saw a dark shape moving slowly towards me. As it crossed the meadow, I could see it was a timber wolf. A shiver spread through my entire body. I recognized that familiar shape immediately, even after 4 years. "Hello, old lady," I called out gently. The wolf approached, ears pricked, body tense, and stopped a few feet away, her bushy tail swaying slightly. Moments later, the wolf was gone. I left Kuprianof Island a short time later and never saw the animal again. But the memory she left with me, vivid, frightening, a little strange, will always be there, a reminder that there are things in nature that exist outside the laws and understanding of man. With 4 cubs to feed, the mother wolf would need to keep herself nourished. During that brief instant, this injured animal and I somehow penetrated each other's worlds, overcoming barriers that were never meant to be crossed. There is no way to explain experiences like this. We can only accept them and, because they are tinged with an air of mystery and strangeness, perhaps value them even more.